not hateful though. He just wants to find a church home to spew all this love. What's your thoughts, man?
Man, it's funny. This guy complained about the protest and he claims that you know what I love about those videos, JR? They don't show the crowds. It's clear that this guy doesn't have much of a flock or congregation. And he claims that they're growing in membership and all of that. Like this guy, anybody who's been to a popular church or, somebody, a preacher who's got, a lot of people trying to show up to his sermons, these people have charisma. They have the gift of gab. They have a way with words. This dude has the charisma of a thumbtack. That's why his church is failing. Obviously, the hate speech is not gonna help. The anti-Semitism, the homophobia is not gonna help him. But that kind of stuff hasn't stopped pastors in the past from becoming popular, if we're being real and honest. This guy he just doesn't have what it takes, JR. He's lacking the necessary abilities, if you will, when it comes to stirring the spirits of a congregation. Like I'm listening to this guy, I'm like, who wants to follow this dude?
Right, well the thing is the message a lot of times is very similar to people who are successful in, I guess creating their flock. Look, Donald Trump, except as you mentioned, the less and less charisma you have, which honestly, I don't see the charisma of Donald Trump, but people do. The less of that you have, the more hate you have to pump in order to facilitate that or make up for the difference in it. And we can see how much hate goes from there. There's many other instances from this same church of other people who are preaching up there saying horrific things like that. But he can't find a home. They're homeless right now and they're just looking for someplace while they're out lost in the wilderness, just like the Israelites, Sure. I think we can do this last one in. Let's squeeze in Salt Bay, the new Salt Bay. How did that guy get on the pitch? We saw the World Cup just ended. Argentina has won the Golden Trophy, which is worth way more money than I thought it was worth. We're gonna get to in a second. Salt Bay there, if you guys didn't recognize him, is standing there hanging out with all the players, grabbing people's arms, looking for pictures, promoting himself. Of course, his real name is Nusret Goki, I think. He's a Turkish butcher and a restaurateur now. We've seen him from the Salt Bay fame. That's who this guy is. Before we get more about this whole thing, let's show who he is. Fine, this is him. You guys know him, watch.
A Turkish chef has the world salivating. Nusret Goce was little known outside of Turkey until Instagram videos of him slicing and salting steak in his own unique way went viral. The video shows Goce coiling his arm and drizzling salt off his elbow onto meat in a way that some say is sensual. It's earned him the nickname Salt Bay, based on an acronym that means before anyone else. Goce caught fire in January when musician Bruno Mars tweeted an image of the butcher in mid-salt. Since then, the butcher has taken advantage of the spotlight, posting videos of himself slapping, stroking, and dancing with meat.
Jesus, this guy really took it to the next level. So he went further because I think people stopped talking about him. People like attention. Let's go to graphic 3 here. Here's that picture he finally did get with Messi, because Messi finally got that victory. And he doesn't look very happy to take that picture with the Salt Bay, There was more things about this though, because apparently it's illegal. It's against the rules for anybody who is not a competitor, a coach, or someone who actually won the damn thing to touch the damn trophy. Let's watch that. He kept doing the same thing. The discomfort on each of those players' faces was quite obvious. And they're like, I don't think you're supposed to touch this. Who is this guy?
The thing about shameless self-promotion, JR, is that it's shameless. AF. Like this guy will go. He knows no bounds when it comes to promoting himself. But the problem, is that the product doesn't stand up to it. I know very early into this Salt Bae thing, one of my friends was abroad and went to one of his restaurants or pop-ups or whatever it was and said the food was trash. So this guy is making his name off of being a butcher, a chef, yada, 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 and he's not delivering products. So he's the worst kind of grifter, JR. He can't even produce something that's enjoyable, and he's constantly promoting himself and his awful product.
Let's talk about something he produced. Let's look at this receipt, because someone did tweet out and said, look at this prices though, at this food that we just discovered, exclusive content from Waz and Lambre here, that it's garbage. Look at that bill, 37,000, over 37,000 pounds for that meal. There's wines and champagnes for $20,000 and $10,000, 3,400 bucks for these baklava, all this stuff, 37K, bro. It's outrageous. But maybe he's looking to buy his own trophy, because this is the last thing I want to say about this. The 18 karat gold trophy is estimated to be worth around $20 million. Damn, I didn't know it was really real. I thought
that's
they needed
crazy.
That's insane. I wouldn't let nobody touch it either.
And and the problem is, man, these FIFA cats, why does this guy even have a credential to be down there? They're 100%. So corrupt and greedy and thirsty. And basically, if you're willing to pay anything, yeah, you can have access to the world's greatest players in the biggest sporting event that the world puts on. Yeah, go ahead, Salt Bae, with your terrible food.
That's how it works. That's the world. That's also the show here, you guys. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Waz, for joining us. Hope you get some rest. Feel better, brother.
I will do my best. Always love being on with you guys.
Fun times. Thank you guys for being here. Up next, John Iadarola with the Damage Report. Go check him out. We'll see you guys tomorrow for Big News Wednesday.
Good morning, one and all, and welcome back to the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola. I am very lucky to be joined on this auspicious day by the host of Rayy-Actions, as well as contributor to Rebel HQ, Rayvanna. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. And auspicious? That's a great word. Honestly, that's going to be my my word of the day now.
I've spent all of my vocabulary points on that one word, and it's all dumb from here. But anyway, glad to have you here, and glad to have you. You're gonna be presenting some stories that you picked later on, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. So everyone, definitely buckle up for that. Buckle up as well as we jump into pretty awesome rundown. We're gonna be talking about what's going on at the border, how the Supreme Court is weighing in, and what it might say about what's gonna happen over the next few months. We've of course got Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert beginning a war that I just desperately wanna stop. I don't wanna see these two fighting. Come on, guys, get along and push for all of those policies that you have thoughts on or whatever. Anyway, so that'll be a little bit of fun. We've got a candidate totally making up his background. Media Matters made an amazing mashup of Tucker Carlson's misinformation from throughout the year. And then once we jump into the aftermath, we've got this anti-abortion priest. He's a priest, like many right-wing commentators are comedians. So anyway, we're gonna talk about that. A woman goes undercover at an abortion crisis center. There's just a lot of really interesting stuff, and I can't wait to get into it. So in anticipation of that, please hit the like button and share the stream. And if you want to reach out to Rayvanna or myself with any comments, tweets, super chats, anything like that, we'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Rayvanna, are you ready to start the show?
I am so ready.
I am too. But heads up to the TD, hold off just a sec on launching the first block. I just want to mention a bit of breaking news that I noticed. We're just seeing this right now. And I know it's gonna blow all your socks off. Nobody could have seen it coming, but it has now been announced that the Taliban is banning women from universities, which is weird because I distinctly remember when they very specifically said they weren't gonna be doing that. And then they started banning them from certain types of schools, and they banned them from doing the college entrance exams, and they banned them from athletics, and now indeed are banning them from universities. It's so weird that the Taliban ended up looking so much like the Taliban. So anyway, look, it's not like we didn't know that this was a possibility when America was no longer there. It's so ridiculous the way that they tried to pitch themselves purely for like foreign investment purposes as being anything other than what they are. These, like some men in America, are the most broken, pathetic slugs of men on the planet. Their whole point of getting into power is to stop women from doing things, to strike back at women for all the inadequacies that they feel. And look, it's obviously complex and it's a different cultural context, but you just hate to see it. Anyway, Rayvanna, I know that I'm springing this on you. I'm just curious about your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I for one am shocked that the Taliban went back on their word when they explicitly said they wouldn't. I mean, if you can't trust radical terrorists, who can you trust?
Yeah. I don't know at this point. Literally stopping them from playing cricket. What is up with you as individuals? What is up with you as a group, as an ideology, as an idea of what the culture could be? Not what the culture is, let's be clear about that. This is being imposed on a lot of people who have no interest in it, but just how sad, how pathetic the world that they wanna create. Again, that doesn't mean that it's the US's role to come in and take over a nation build to whatever, but I can look on it as a person who wishes for far more for the people of Afghanistan to not have to dwell in this literal the hell on earth that they're trying to create. That is what they're doing. Anyway, just a little bit of breaking news for you. And with that, let's talk about our own problems going forward as we launch into our first prepared story.
This is the biggest story in recent.
We'll get to Tucker Carlson, don't you worry about that. But anyway, let's start off with just a general talk. What the hell is going on with Title 42? It seems like every day it's gonna be taken down. It's not gonna be taken down. They're considering it, they're appealing. The stay is stopped, the stay is started. Well, as of right now, the end of Title 42 has been itself ended, at least for right now. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts just yesterday temporarily halted what was going to be the planned end of Title 42, which was set to happen on Wednesday. That's the policy that allows the US to expel migrants at the southern border without the chance for asylum. It's been the policy for a few years right now, and it's gone through many ups and downs since then. Roberts issued this administrative stay pending the high court's decision on whether to take up the case which we'll talk more about, after a coalition of Republican-led states earlier Monday asked it to intervene. An appeals court had already denied the state's bid to retain the controversial policy last week, saying that this is the appeals court, saying this group of states had waited way too long to get involved in this court case. And so they were gonna allow it to be lifted. Now the Supreme Court has jumped in to save, I guess, one of the favorite MAGA policies at this point. If you're not familiar with Title 42, in the early days of the pandemic, the CDC issued a public health order that officials said aimed to stop the spread of COVID-19. In court papers, the lawyers for the 6 different families who entered the US, who've launched this suit, argue that COVID-19 was always a thinly veiled pretense to increase immigration control. And so right now, the ability of officials to swiftly expel migrants at the border is still gonna be in effect for weeks, months, a year. I don't know, because they're not saying, and we know how fast the US judicial system tends to work. But before we jump into our conversation, I do just want to say, to the point made by the families that it's a thinly veiled pretext, let's be clear. It was maybe a reason. Very early on, we didn't know about COVID, we didn't know all of that. Then it became a thinly veiled pretext for some time. To be clear, it's not thinly veiled at this point. When Fox News talks about Title 42, they're not pretending to care about COVID. Why would they? They don't believe that the pandemic is a real thing or matters. No, it is just talked about as a means to stop migrants from coming in. So if there was a thin veil, it has been cast off a long time ago. Anyway, Rayvanna, I know that you have a lot of thoughts about this.
Yeah, as far as it being thinly veiled, I mean, you can see that in the media ramp up leading up to the Supreme Court decision. Fox News has been running endless stories about the newest migrant caravan that is invading our country, which I think is such a funny term to use. If this is an invasion that you are scared of, then this is the weakest country on earth. These are people with almost nothing that they're bringing with them, who are fleeing desperate situations and just trying to seek refuge, trying to seek asylum in the United States. So to frame them as some dangerous, force is ridiculous. The other thing they also try to say is that they're doing this to help protect victims of human trafficking who are being brought in. But the issue with that is these migrants become significantly more likely to become the victims of human trafficking when they're forced into these encampments just outside the United States border. It is an extremely dangerous situation there for these people. And one other thing I want to say before we continue on is the framing of them as illegal immigrants. Then, the term would be undocumented, but they call them illegal. But it doesn't matter, because that's not what this is. These are asylum seekers, which is a legal process of immigration. They are coming to the United States border, declaring that they're seeking asylum. A legal process. So they're not coming here undocumented. And so framing it in that way is just a disingenuous way to play to their exceptionally xenophobic base.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was a very good point, very nuanced take. You could, in theory, look at different sorts of migrants coming for different reasons, and if you wanted to draw some sort of distinction where, like, if you were a Christian and you were trying to claim some sort of moral high ground, you would say, obviously women fleeing domestic violence in Guatemala, we're gonna help them in, but these guys are just coming to take our, like, you'd say that. It'd be awful in a variety of different ways. You could do that. They're not doing that. They like, let's be clear, they don't give a damn what people's reason is for coming. And also, they don't give a damn what happens to them when they're stopped at the border or when they're cast out. If they go to these camps, if they get sick and die, if they get raped, if they get beaten or murdered or turned back and have to make a trek of hundreds or thousands of miles back to God knows where, they don't care. They're not interested in literally any of that. And they would really prefer if you didn't bring it up. It's rude of you to make them think about that sort of thing. And look, to be clear, the number of border crossings is projected that it would go up if Title 42 were taken away, at least in the short term. They have no idea what it's gonna look like a year ago. Or a year from now, they never do. But also, it isn't, I don't think, the disaster being presented on Fox News. It would go up. The estimates seem to show like a quarter. It would. Is that a good amount of people? Yeah, it seems like a lot of people. Should the communities right on the border be required to deal with all that? No, I think that the federal government has the capability and the funding to help resettle people throughout the US. But again, that's not what they're asking for at the border. They're asking for, at the very least, them to be thrown out. And as we'll see when we get into Tucker Carlson, possibly quite a bit more than throwing them out, maybe stopping them at all costs from getting into the country in the first place. Anyway, Rayvanna, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. But again, what is the concern? What are they afraid of? If the number goes up by a quarter, if the number goes up by 100%, a whole other 100%, what difference does that make? How does that impact the people who are, fear mongering about this immigration border crisis? How does that impact you? What damage, what so-called damage does that do to the country? And they can't express that in a way other than they're encroaching on Western values. They're encroaching on their idea of what America is supposed to be. I've seen, right-wing commentators say that they're coming here and they don't speak English, so they shouldn't be allowed in. Last time I checked, the United States doesn't have an official language. So if it doesn't have an official language, the official language can't be English. So who cares one way or another if they do or do not speak English? I mean, the fears are just so racist to their core and so unfounded in reality. I mean, the other thing they'll say is they're gonna come in and they're gonna, vote Democrat. They can't vote. So that's irrelevant too until they become citizens. So I fail to understand what the fear is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's also, so if your fear was that they're just going to vote Democrats. So first of all, you could, I don't know, not make yourself clearly the bad guy in this case if you wanted them to be interested in your policies. I mean, a lot of these migrants are coming from countries with fairly conservative Christianity at sort of the core of their culture. In theory, they could find some of your social stuff maybe appealing. And by the way, you guys also say that in the last couple of elections, like Donald Trump is far more appealing to Latino voters or something. Well, okay, but then you can't at the exact same time say that every single migrant that crosses the border is obviously going to be a big fan of Pete Buttigieg someday. That doesn't make sense. Oh, by the way, also, like your main argument for decades, I mean, I would say the subtle version of your argument is that we hate these cultures. They're gonna come in, they're gonna take our women, we hate them, they're dirty. That's pretty clear from people like Tucker Carlson. But the main, I guess, substantive argument you would make is that they're coming in and that they're taking jobs. But you guys also will not stop saying that American workers are lazy and they won't work anymore. And we need more competition to drive down wages and all that. Like, again, that is what they have been saying on a daily basis for at least a solid year and a half at this point. So, like, you guys talk constantly about the need for our population to grow and all that. And how do you think that's gonna happen? You think it's just going to be conservative right-wingers? I doubt it. They've never had satisfying sex in their entire lives. They're not gonna suddenly start popping out more kids. They're already doing their best. Take a look at some of these right-wing pundits. Can you expect women to want to go to bed more often with them? But anyway, look, what is lost from all of this is any sense of humanity or compassion. I'm not saying it's a super simple situation, and I'm not saying it's not a situation. But I don't think that just lining the border with containers like they've done in, I think it was in Arizona, is the answer. I certainly don't think that force is the answer. And we're gonna turn to that actually in a minute. Any more thoughts before we move on to Tucker Carlson, how he's been presenting this to his audience?
Yeah, I'll just say that right now, like Title 42 is a huge issue. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Right now, one of the arguments that these Republican states are making is that it's a drain on their resources, that they have to allow undocumented children to attend their schools, their public schools, and provide them an education. And right now there's legal battles going on to, although it's a decided issue, to make it not the case that undocumented children in this country are guaranteed an education, which is really concerning. And we see the same thing with the Supreme Court here. It's an ideological institution that is heavily favoring the right wing, far right conservative ideology currently, and their decisions are not based on any sort of like fundamentals of legal theory. It's based on what the Federalist Society tells them to do. So there's like serious concerns right now over how this country is going to treat, migrants, immigrants moving forward, regardless of what Congress wants to do, regardless of what the president wants to do, because we have this third branch that is so far to the right and does not care about legal theory, does not care about a real justification for their arguments. They're just making ideological decisions.
Yeah. Okay. With that, let's turn now to that's sort of the reality of what's going on. Let's turn now to how the right is being, I would argue, just triggered by right-wing pundits about this, the version of this that they're getting every night, starting with this.
This is the biggest story in recent American history. A total change in the American population. Millions and millions and millions of new people. The country will never be what it was 5 years ago. Even if you're for this, you would acknowledge this is a big deal. And it's completely ignored by the media, except when they are forced to respond and they tell you to shut up and stop complaining.
Okay, so the media is constantly talking about this. It is literally everywhere. Tucker Carlson knows that he doesn't care. He has to present every single thought that he said, every single thing that he says, every thought that he has as unique, even if every other right winger is saying the exact same thing, and something that he's not allowed to say, despite the fact that he says it to millions of people every single night. And there's an entire news network and a bunch of news network copiers of Fox News that are saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. But anyway, it's super original thoughts. So America will never be what it was 5 years ago. And again, the longing for some sort of like mythologized version of what America is a constant in conservative thought. But to be clear, America is different every 5 years. We've been through a pandemic. We've been through the Trump years. It's been a complex time. There's no going back from that. And when it comes to immigration, not only do we have the issue with Tucker Carlson there, where every single story about immigration has to not just reference the Great Replacement theory, it is the entire foundation for everything that Tucker Carlson says. So if people from Colombia, if people from Peru, if people from wherever decide to cross the border, it's not that they've made a possibly difficult decision combined with an arduous trek of hundreds or thousands of miles to better their own personal life, to escape political persecution or domestic violence or anything like that. No, they're doing it because Chuck Schumer and Kamala Harris want them to. I guess they got a letter in the mail, come on over. It has to be a plot, and you have to forget the fact, the I would think undeniable fact, that there has been immigration in America since the very beginning. It has been a constant. There have been massive waves of immigration. I'm here now. You'll notice I'm not picking olives on some hillside in Italy. Weird how that worked out. How the hell did I get over here? Might be worth looking into. I don't think that Tucker Carlson's family was here 1,000 years ago. But you'll notice that he doesn't have an issue with those sorts of immigration, although many Americans did, by the way. Italians were quite persecuted in their time. And so forget about the history. Forget about the fact that America has had tensions over immigration from the very beginning. That is true, but has always managed to integrate new populations, and I think indisputably has been strengthened by both the labor participation and the cultural contributions of different populations at different times, integrating in different ways. And so look, there's obviously a lot here, and we're gonna get to more of the video, but Rayvanna, what do you think about the way he's presenting this?
I mean, I think it's just fascinating to say, America will never be what it was like 5 years ago. Because if you look at videos of Tucker Carlson talking about immigration 5 years ago, he wasn't saying that, America was some, at its peak of culture 5 years ago. He was saying the same exact thing, that America will never be like what it was before. So it seems like, just a ridiculous argument on its face. But also, the last time that amnesty was granted to undocumented immigrants in the United States was under Ronald Reagan. So now this huge shift, this huge culture war shift about immigration that's happened, and to see all these conservative pundits talk about how horrible America would be if we, granted amnesty to these undocumented immigrants, while simultaneously they're constantly praising Ronald Reagan and his policies as the peak of America. It's just so silly to me.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get to a little bit more? He brought on guests to talk about what's happening specifically in El Paso. Let's take a look at that.
It's heartbreaking to see it to happen, of all places, to El Paso, which is such a nice little town and such a success, particularly compared to the city right across the river. I don't understand, and you probably don't want to comment on this because it's your state and you're in politics, but why does state government put up with this? Why don't they secure the border? They have men under arms that they mean the governor, control. Why put up with this for 1 minute?
Yeah, I think it has frustrated everyone. Local level, certainly at the state level, in Congress, it's frustrated me in Congress as well. But we have to remind that this is exactly what Democrats wanted. A year ago, House Democrats hosted the vice president in El Paso. There, they had a press conference that said, "Welcome to the new Ellis Island." When people often ask me, "Hey, what's the administration's plan?" This is their plan, Tucker. We're seeing it unfold, and this is exactly what they want. They want taxpayers to pay for this influx of migrants that, as you pointed, are going to all parts of the country. This is exactly what the Democrats want. We have to fight them with everything we can, and that starts in the House.
I agree with that. No one's even pretending this helps America. They're not even telling us that anymore. They know it's hurting America. That's why they like it.
To be clear, I made a case for why I thought it might help America. Actually, just a minute ago, I feel like a lot of people are doing that. Again, making up fantastical straw man versions of the other side should be below a professional persuader, professional communicator, but that's the best that Tucker Carlson can do. They like it because it hurts America. It's ridiculous. You say that to an audience that you have no respect for. That's what you do. You present basically everything that's happening as part of a plan. And that's why we talk about conspiracy theories, but it is broader than that. The problem with the right isn't a conspiracy theory or multiple conspiracy theories. It is conspiracism. It's the idea that everything is planned, everything is intentional, everything has a design, everything is being manipulated from behind the scenes. Is it not enough to say, I disagree with the Democrats on their policy on the border, even though bear in mind that Joe Biden gleefully allowed Title 42 to continue for a very long time, maintained many of the same Donald Trump border policies for the first half of his first term. The idea that he's opened the border is ridiculous. It should be below any serious conversation about politics. But again, it can't just be, I disagree with what they're doing. They don't seem to understand the damage that will be done. They have to present it as if to an audience of dim-witted 4-year-olds that they want this to happen. They're somehow communicating with populations in Honduras to ask them to come over. How exactly would that even work? This is so stupid in so many ways. El Paso is not a little town. What are you talking about? It's 2/3 the size of Austin. Have you literally ever even been to El Paso? Why are you pretending to understand El Paso? I don't understand anything that he says. What do you think about this, Rayvanna?
I think what I liked, well, also which made me the most angry about that clip, was that they don't say how it hurts America. They don't make that case at all. They just operate on the assumption that everybody should already know how it hurts America. You know, he doesn't say it's going to do this and this and that. The only thing that he mentions is that it's bad for American taxpayers. But you know who pays taxes? Immigrants, migrants, even undocumented immigrants pay taxes. They can and they do, especially people seeking amnesty in order to work in the United States. Not amnesty, excuse me, asylum. To work as an asylum seeker in the United States, you have to get an ITIN. You have to pay taxes. So these are not people who are coming here and not paying taxes. But what is true is that they come here, they pay taxes, and they do not have access to the benefits that the United States citizens have from their tax payments.
Yeah, I get that the way that he lies about literally everything in politics, and we'll get to his overall lies throughout the year, is designed to generate an audience, and clearly it's working for him. He's gotten rich off of it. So I don't know, maybe we should try it. Rayvanna, what you just said, no one lets you say that. You've been silenced. You're told to sit down and shut up. You didn't say the thing that you just said. That's what the media said. God,
been canceled.
So condescending, the lack of respect for anyone watching his show. Anyway, with that said, let me make one extra point. We don't have it in the clip, but the guy that he was interviewing, he said of the stay for Title 42, it's a stay of execution. Because again, in the same way that they talk about migrants crossing the border, as they literally always have, as an invasion, if it's not stopped, if it is in fact lifted, you will be executed effectively. That's the metaphor that they're crafting. How? Why? Nobody knows. They're certainly not saying, but you should be scared for your life and the life of your family. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna take our first break. We come back, a little feud developing between two up-and-comers in the Republican Party. We'll have the details after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Did want to let you know, Monday, December 26th, so next Monday, you can join Brett Ehrlich on ABC as he recaps the year. He's gonna be recapping all of 2022 on ABC The Year. That is December 26th at 9 Eastern, I believe, on ABC. He's been doing it for a number of years, always makes it fun, so something to look forward to right after Christmas. Also, we've got our Turks and Jerks of the Year coming up as well. We're gonna be selecting the best and worst people. You can participate in that actually by going to tyt.com/polls and voting for both Turk and Jerk of the Year. Should be a lot of fun. I definitely know who the Jerk of the Year is. I'm not sure about the Turk. What do you think, Rayvanna? Do you have any picks?
I don't know. The year's been so long. This is probably the longest year of my life. I can't even remember all the things that happened in it.
Yeah, I think that my gut would say Jerk of the Year, probably Elon Musk. Although I think Kanye and Herschel Walker make a good player, maybe Vladimir Putin. But I'm gonna say Elon Musk. And then Turk of the Year, I guess it's always better when you can give it to a person than a group, but I think I'm gonna say the women of Iran. I think. I don't know. Those are my ideas, but you go to tyt.com/polls and you can vote for yourself. That said, let's see what's going on in the members' comments. Square Peg in a Round Hole says, Texas, we are so well off and so independent, we want to be our own country. Also, Texas, these immigrants seeking asylum are an extreme burden on our economy and it needs to be stopped. And yes, I currently live in Texas. The cognitive dissonance that they're feeling here is mind-boggling. Yeah, exactly. No, they're the best ever. But always, that's with literally everything. You have to simultaneously be unstoppably powerful, but the constant victim. It's constant throughout their politics. Vitingale has been with us for 23 months. As always, Vitingale, thank you for your service. Vitingale says, we're happy to see you, Rayvanna, on TDR. Oh. And also said, looking forward to the Bitchuation Room, which I will be joining Francesca Fiorentini on later on today. I'm gonna be giving you a rundown of what I'm bitching about today, and I've seen a rundown. It's gonna be a lot of fun, so everyone definitely tune in live to that. Thank you, Progressive Canuck, for gifting 5 memberships over on YouTube, much appreciated. Edward Russell, who's been a member for 12 months, says, yay, Ray and John, may all of the Dragon Squad have safe and happy holidays, and you as well. Thank you, Edward. Okay, let's see. Real Life Jolly sent in a super chat saying, hey John, I was wondering why all of Dr. Richie's show is included on his podcast and yet yours is not. Yours used to include even interviews and now it doesn't even include the garbage people. Well, we did one week start off with the garbage people so that it would be in the podcast. I don't know why that decision was made. I don't know. I mean, isn't it nice though to be able to listen to the podcast, enjoy it, and then be like, well, if I want more, I can go to the YouTube channel. Isn't that a nice little treat? I don't know. It's a good point. It's a good point. I will think about it. At the end of the day, though, I don't know that it's up to me. But thank you. Okay, over on Twitch, Xanadu Dragon's been here for 17 months. Thank you very much. Daily Mai has been here for, or just subscribed actually. Thank you. Foxes in Soxes has been here for 2 months. Says new member of the Dragon Squad, but super psyched to be here. Well, we're super psyched to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Tia Lamala has been here for 22 months as well. Thank you everyone over on Twitch. I can see in the Twitch or this is the YouTube chat, John G, Marley both yelling Rayvanna with quite a few exclamation points. It's like a Truth Central tweet up in here. Anyway, with that said, we got a lot more news to get to, so don't go anywhere, everybody. We'll be right back. Okay, that got a little bit serious. Let's have a little bit of fun, starting with this.
Someone who we all respect, Marjorie Taylor Greene, says Kevin McCarthy is going to be a great speaker.
I guess you'll have to ask Marjorie about that. I'm a fan of hers. I'm an admirer, but it's not something we see the same way.
Lauren?
Well, you know, I've been aligned with Marjorie and accused of believing a lot of the things that she believes in. I don't believe in this, just like I don't believe in Russian space lasers.
Are you a hard no?
Space lasers okay. And all of this.
Ooh. A little bit of a feud developing there. Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz, by the way, obviously disagree a little bit on who should be the speaker. That's perfectly understandable. They have a difference in opinion about Republican leadership, and Marjorie Greene's been very clear about that. Matt Gaetz was satisfied to just say, I respect her, I disagree with her on this, but not Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert instantly was hostile and aggressive in that, which I love. I love it. Marjorie Greene did not. And we're gonna get to her response to that in just a second. But Rayvanna, what did you make of what you saw from Lauren Boebert there?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love to see two idiots fighting. So I'm excited to see the rest of the segment. I think it's interesting because I see why Marjorie Taylor Greene would want to, prop up Kevin McCarthy for speaker, because she's been treated favorably by him. She's gotten more access to like the core of the Republican leadership. Recently, she was talking about how her and some other Republicans, including Kevin McCarthy, meet, and she referred to it as the five families. So Lauren Boebert has gone against the family here, which was but Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz are, sort of persona non grata for the Republican Party. She barely won her election, so she's not like the Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is this sort of, poster child for fundraising for them. And Matt Gaetz too, given the investigation into his alleged sex trafficking of a minor, they are not people they want to be propping up as the face of the Republican Party anymore. But Marjorie Taylor Greene can say all of the crazy nonsense she wants to, but as long as she's able to fundraise the way she does, she's always going to have that spot cozy up next to the leadership. So it makes sense that there's this division there, but I can't fathom why Lauren Boebert would sort of take that jab, aside from the fact that she's just too stupid to realize that it might, cause some division.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a personal thing or if this is a branding thing. Marjorie Greene is more popular on the right than Lauren Boebert. Maybe Lauren Boebert wants to get elevated by trying to take her down. They all see this as a zero-sum thing. But yeah, from the very beginning, she was ready with that. I'm often accused of agreeing with her. Well, actually, we're talking about where you disagree with her, so it feels like you're needlessly making it about that. I appreciated the reference to the Jewish space lasers, although she's never forget that despite the fact that she's popular, Lauren Boebert is horrible at this, which is why she had to fumble to even get to the concept of a Jewish space laser. But whatever. As much as I might have enjoyed it, Marjorie Greene, not so much. And she tweeted this about Lauren Boebert. She gladly takes our money, but when she's been asked, Lauren refuses to endorse President Trump. She refuses to support Kevin McCarthy, and she childishly threw me under the bus for a cheap soundbite. Which, yeah, that's all true. I agree with Marjorie. It was childish. She did throw her under the bus for a cheap soundbite. Marjorie Greene is actually right here. The country is facing extremely difficult times. Americans expect conservative fighters like us to work together to save America. And that is the only mission I'm 100% devoted to, not high school drama and media sound bites. Well, to be fair, you could have not responded then. And by the way, it wasn't that she just tweeted this. She quote tweeted the video of that soundbite. So you can't say that you're totally not in it about the sound bites when you're directly responding and spreading the soundbite right there. But again, I get it. She was attacked. She gets to respond. She says, I've supported and donated to Lauren Boebert. President Trump has supported and donated to Lauren Boebert. Kevin McCarthy has supported and donated to Lauren Boebert. She just barely came through by 500 votes. So that is a good little hit at Lauren Boebert. But there's a little bit of friendly fire there. Did you notice it? So she's mocking Lauren Boebert for having trouble getting reelected. But you're also pointing out that the collective funding and support of Marjorie Greene, Kevin McCarthy, and President Trump himself got her a win by 500 votes. Geez, it's a Republican district. Why didn't she do better when these huge Titanic figures on the right were supporting her? You guys don't necessarily come out of that looking that much better. But anyway, what'd you make of the response?
I think it's, all of this is funny, because I like to see Republicans attack each other. But pointing out the 500 votes, I think it acknowledges that there is a reason why Lauren Boebert would want to distance herself from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump, because the district, despite being heavily Republican, pretty resoundingly attempted to reject her in this last election. Like she got reelected by the skin of her teeth. So distancing herself from Trump, distancing herself from the loony wing of the Republican Party might benefit her when it comes time to run again 2 years from now. But I think it's silly because she's standing there next to Jack Posobiec, a literal white supremacist. So, who she picks and chooses to distance herself from, and Matt Gaetz, a alleged pedophile. So It just seems it's so arbitrary, but she's never had good political instincts. Her campaign has never had good political instincts, so it doesn't surprise me that she would, make those mistakes.
That is a great point. And they say that supposedly the rift between Boebert and Greene started in April when Greene was at, I think it was Nick Fuentes' America First thing or whatever, which, by the way, if Boebert was legitimately horrified by her going to that thing, that reflects at least somewhat well on Lauren Boebert, although it's undercut, as you say, by the fact that she's also hanging out with people who act that way. But yeah, look, I wouldn't want to be associated with Marjorie Greene either. And I also think, and I think this has been clear for a very long time, from 1,000 miles up, looking at Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert, they're similar in a lot of ways. But I think that Lauren Boebert will be whatever she needs to be popular in the Republican Party. I think if the Republican Party starts to be a little bit more sane, I think that she will try to mirror that. I think that she's an idiot, so she'll have a hard time doing it, but I think she'll try. Greene is, in my view, much more of an actual true believer. I think that Greene literally is a dumb person on the internet who believes every conspiracy theory that she reads. I think Lauren Boebert is playing a game to some extent. I think that I'm not saying that she's not awful and racist or homophobic or whatever. I'm sure that she is. But I think it's also sort of like a suit she puts on to be popular, whereas Greene can't help it. This is what she actually thinks. And so if I were Lauren Boebert in that case, and I knew that this is supposed to be a game we play for the rubes, I would be horrified by a true believer too. Like, why are you taking this so seriously? This is just a way we make money and stay in power. You're a kind of a weirdo. I think there might be a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people say, do you think that the Republicans who are anti-vax actually got vaccinated? I'll say yes, all of them, except for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know in her heart of hearts, she genuinely believes that she will become a magnet if she takes the vaccine, or that, she'll grow a third arm, or she'll be able to walk through walls or something. She's genuinely believes the things she says. She believes in the Jewish space lasers, all the conspiracy theories. And we know that because that's who she was before she got into office. So we see a lot of these career politicians who, give lip service to these conspiracy theories once they're elected because they're playing to a base. But she was part of that base. She came from that base to get elected into Congress. So she, like you said, very much a true believer.
Yeah. I want to play one more video in just a second, just to see. I always like to check how much of a bubble I'm in, because I've never found Lauren Boebert to be I know that she sees herself as being the next Sarah Palin or something like that. I don't think that she has it. I don't think that she can deliver. Now, she's doing these speeches and appearances for a very low bar in terms of intelligence, ability to communicate, charisma, and all that. But I want to show you this little bit of her trying to fire up a crowd and get them excited for her. And you tell me how she did.
And we're going to make y'all proud. We're going to make America proud. We are going to weed out the deep state, and that includes the sorry Department of Injustice. We are going to take our country back. We will not relent. We will not retreat. We are moving forward from a place of victory, and we are going to put America first. God bless you.
I'm not the target audience for that, I get it, but I didn't think that was that great, and the audience seems to side with me. That was supposed to be a speech that she is screaming over raucous applause. That's why she's weirdly yelling there, because the idea is it's gonna be like this epic moment. But you weren't screaming over raucous, you were just sort of screaming, making up things from a place of victory. No, the red wave didn't happen. And you won by a couple of school buses full of people. It's not an amazing victory. I didn't find it to be convincing. That to me did not smack of here's the next Trump or anything. What did you think?
It reminded me so much of the best is yet to come. I mean, it's embarrassing to watch her up there screaming to no applause or to weak applause. I mean, it's awkward because she's reading someone else's words. She didn't write that speech, but she was told to deliver it a certain way, and she just doesn't have the ability to gauge like that she should scale back because she's not getting the response that they intended for her to be getting while she was delivering it. So they probably just said, hey, you're gonna need to talk loudly to hear yourself over the yelling and the applause. That never came, but she like couldn't gauge that, oh, then I shouldn't yell. So she's just up there screaming and like awkwardly delivering these lines that she's clearly not comfortable saying. Like she doesn't necessarily have a voice that you can write for. She's not a good public speaker. Anytime she does like a public address, it feels extremely awkward. And she's like reading a script. She doesn't take the pauses where a person would normally pause. She doesn't have it. She doesn't, whatever it is that gets you elected, to the higher office that helps you, lead a movement. She doesn't have it.
Yeah, I think that's why when she gets a line that she thinks is good, she like runs it into the ground, like the constantly talking about lesbian dance theory in college or
Fauci ouchie.
Made up Fauci ouch. Oh God, or making up an interaction with Ilhan Omar where she called her a terrorist or something. Like, I'm sorry, you're not the next Sarah Palin. You're not. And by the way, like I sort of also get another reason why she probably doesn't like Marjorie Greene. Neither of them are ever going to be appealing to the right based on any policy or whatever. They're Republicans. Why would they be? But Marjorie Greene is a true believer. Marjorie Greene believes insane stuff and she will never stop talking about it. Lauren Boebert's just kind of like her. It's like she's young, I guess, and she's a woman. So she's got that stands out from other Republican politicians. Other than that, what does she stand for? What makes her interesting or distinct from any, like she occasionally says something awful. Yeah, that's true, I guess. I don't know. I don't see this going the way she thinks it will. And it'll be very interesting to see who challenges her in 2 years. She will be lucky to keep her seat. If the Democrats had spent an extra $1 million, she wouldn't even be in Congress in a month. So anyway, we'll see what happens with her. With that said, why don't we move to someone else? As much issue as I might have with her, and by the way, there is a little bit of mystery in her backstory. I don't think it holds a candle to this new guy. So let's talk about this dude. An incoming Republican congressman, you're seeing right there, George Santos, has got a little bit of explaining to do about his background. A lot of the story, the legend, the mythology of himself that he ran on to get elected doesn't seem to have any backing whatsoever. So here is what we know about him. Okay, so he's the son of Brazilian immigrants. First openly gay Republican to win a House seat as a non-incumbent. So that's impressive in today's Republican Party. By his account, he started off at a New York City public college and then immediately like rocketed into fame and fortune. Okay, he became a seasoned Wall Street financier and investor, okay, with a family-owned real estate portfolio of 13 properties. So a little bit inconsistent with the idea that you were just some kid pulling yourself up by your bootstraps at a public college when your family owns many, many properties, but whatever. So here's the thing. People have looked into many of the specific claims he has made about his background, including the New York Times. They've looked at public documents, court filings. There doesn't seem to be evidence of much of any of it. And take a look at the things that he made up. So, or at least hasn't yet proven. Citigroup and Goldman Sachs, those are firms that he says he worked for. Told the Times they have no record of ever working there. Which, okay, maybe if you were a summer intern or something, the documentation would have been lost. But if you were a seasoned Wall Street financier and investor, I think they'd remember you. The dude's not 80, okay? He was there a couple of years ago, supposedly. So there's no proof of that. There's little evidence that his animal rescue group, Friends of Pets United, was, as he claims, a tax-exempt organization. The IRS could find no record of a registered charity with that name. His education, also suspect. He's said that he graduated with a degree in economics and finance from Baruch College, a public four-year college in New York City, back in 2010, so only 12 years ago. But representatives from the school told the Times they had no record of his enrollment, despite searching multiple variations of his name. Again, it wasn't that long ago. Also, he says he went to NYU, but a spokesman for that university says they have no attendance records that match his name and birth date. So his work history, his charitable history, his education history appear to be made up. And you're probably thinking, well, that's about as bad as it could get. It can get worse because he has also claimed that he has lost. This is like, I guess, to make him seem like kind of a victim in a business sense. He's lost 4 employees in the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting. He made that claim during an interview after his election. But the New York Times found that none of the 49 victims of that shooting appeared to be associated with any of his firms in any way. And look, there are a lot more questions about this guy, about where his money came from, since he doesn't have the education he says, he doesn't have the work history he says. There's a lot of issues there, but it's fascinating how little backing he has provided for virtually any of this. What do you think, Rayvanna?
I think everybody lies on their resume a little bit. But most people who lie on their resume aren't applying, to be someone holding federal office. So their background isn't looked into as extensively as someone who is running for federal office. And they don't have investigative journalists looking into their claims. So, I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think that he's not the only person. We saw Madison Cawthorn, same playbook. Nobody really knew where his money came from. He had no work history whatsoever, but he said he was involved in all these businesses that turned out not to be true. What the Republican Party does is they find someone who they think they can create a story about, pitch them as a candidate, build them up to be, that guy, and then run them. And he's won election. So now it's going to be 2 years before they can, people can do something about all these lies he told during his campaign. So the voters are in a crappy position. His constituents are in a crappy position, but he got away with it until now.
Yeah, at least as of right now. And one thing he has going for him going forward is that he's a Republican. So the likelihood of anything being done is very different in that case. Like I think about some of the Democrats that have left office for affairs, or for like Al Franken stepped down as a result of the picture that came out. This guy totally made up who he is, or didn't. Okay, maybe it's real, and weirdly there's no evidence of it. So far, there's been no indication that it bothers the leadership of the Republican Party, that this guy is fundamentally a liar about virtually everything. And like think about him in comparison to other candidates that have come out recently. Herschel Walker told a lot of lies, but you know what Herschel Walker also did? He actually played football. Like there's at least something in his past that he talked about that is based in truth. With this guy, is there anything a voter can point to, a claim that he made? Are his parents who he says that they are? Like, do we even know that at this point? And so far, the Republican Party isn't pushing for him to answer these questions, let alone to step down. I will end with this. He put out a statement after all this news blew up. And he says George Santos represents the kind of progress that the left is so threatened by. A gay, Latino, first-generation American, a Republican who won a Biden district. Well, wait, I thought that the Democratic Party was taken over by the gay agenda. Why would they be against a gay Latino candidate? That doesn't make any sense. You guys are constantly attacking them for being in the bag for those populations. Whatever, okay.
Big gay, as it were.
Big gay, exactly. And then goes on, blah, 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 blah. It's no surprise that Congressman-elect Santos has enemies, the New York Times, who are attempting to smear his good name. Is it even his name? I don't know. With these defamatory allegations, as Winston Churchill famously stated, you have enemies? Good. It means that you've stood up for something sometime in your life. And in true George Santos fashion, that does not appear to be a thing that Winston Churchill actually said. Some guy in 2009 is alleged to have actually said it. So he's even making up his quotes. And it's a vapid quote anyway. You could use that as a response to any criticism of you. You'll notice something that's missing from that paragraph, denying literally any of the claims that have been made against him, or evidence of any of the claims that he's made. Weirdly, he didn't have room in his statement for any of that. That to me confirms that he's lying about this stuff. So hopefully the pressure stays on him. In any event, unfortunately, we do have to go to our second break. We've got more news coming up though, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few. Every day the hour passes by so fast. Okay, let's see. We have a statement from Bart. Bart Kyle says, orders and titles like Title 42 are usually not a good idea to keep going. I mean, look at Order 66. How did that turn out for the Jedis? Not a good hang. Bart mocks me constantly for being, in his words, a nerd. And he makes a reference to Order 66 in my document. Bart, you a nerd. Anyway, but I agree, I didn't like that order either. Non-Human Humanist has been a tier 3 member on YouTube for 21 months and says about Title 42. Did US courts know that US was always leading with cases and lagging with prevention and protection? So it seems to me like it would be Steve Bannon would want to keep away from roses because of the bad smell. We'll see what happens with Title 42. I expect that the Supreme Court probably will take it up, and we know the content of the Supreme Court. It's not difficult to figure out where they will land on that. Although the Supreme Court has surprised me a few times over the last 6 months. Usually they will deliver for like core establishment Republican desires. Their willingness to specifically support or defend Donald Trump has not necessarily been what he might have expected. So we'll see. And even if they do take it up, it could take a long time, and presumably Title 42 would continue that entire period. Think about the damage that'll be done during that time. Okay, a Florida Dragon member for 22 months says, "Happy Christmahana Kwanzaa Festivus, John, Rayvanna, the Dragon Squad, and the rest of the TYT family." See, in the Thunder, they don't even let you say Merry Christmas anymore. They force woke Christmahana Kwanzaa Festivus on you. Anyway, happy holidays to you too. Okay, let's see. Charlie Chuckles sent us a super chat saying, "Lol, World War Karen." Exactly. Although, I don't know, Lauren Boebert's more of the Karen. The behavior that Marjorie Greene gets up to is more like awful person who spends too much time believing everything they read posted on Facebook. Anyway, although she was following the kid from Sandy Hook, so. Anyway, the only Dragon Allegra has been a subscriber on Twitch for 23 months and says, "John, please look up Bear repeatedly steals candy from gas station. It's the perfect animal news story for tomorrow with JR." It sounds delightful, and I am actually looking for animal news. I would like to lighten up this week a little bit.
I can vouch for that video. It's very good.
You've seen it?
It's very good.
Has it been going around recently? Is it newsworthy?
Oh, absolutely. Good news for sure.
I've had a long-running feud with bears. The idea that we have the same taste in food scares me. Maybe at the end of the day, I will be the bear I fear the most. But anyway, I will look into it. Thank you for the suggestion. Okay, I did want to let you know that coming up after our program, you've got Indisputable. Dr. Rashad Ritchie will be joined by Jessica Burbank, so stay tuned for that. As I said, coming up not too long after that, I'm going to be joining Francesca Fiorentini for the Bitchuation Room. And you know what would be cool for my rare appearance on the Bitchuation Room? For her to have the largest live audience she's ever had. So check it out. There's going to be another comedian on. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff. We're going to drag Elon Musk for taking the arguments of the big lie and election denial to the realm of Twitter polls for the first time in history. And I will be revealing what I'm bitching about today. So you're not going to want to miss it. Definitely stay tuned for that. Okay, and and Nina Turner will be going live with Unbossed as well a little bit later on. So lots to look forward to on the network. Do I have time? Okay, Bill's Dragon Circles the Wagon says all the things that Rayvanna said MTG can turn into if she got vaxxed were awesome. X-Men characters. I want that too. There was definitely some X-Men in there. Anyway, with that said, we got more news. Don't go anywhere. I hate the position I have put us in where we don't have time to get to both of our blocks, but I know that you talked about this D block, so we're at least gonna get to that. Let's jump into it.
The distinction between misinformation and lying is that misinformation can be true. Not a single person in the crowd on January 6th was found to be carrying a firearm. Not one. The only insurrection in history with no guns, an insurrection that wasn't armed, wasn't planned, and didn't actually insurrect anything. Why are they calling it insurrection? Is it possible that the vaccine actually can hurt you? People who take it are more likely to die of COVID. People who get the booster are more likely to get the latest variant. Inject your children with a drug with no actual benefits. The trans thing seems pretty new. Now, gender-affirming care is a euphemism for chemical castration, radical plastic surgery, and other treatments for gender dysphoria. At Boston Children's Hospital, they're cutting the breasts off of healthy children. So Boston Children's Hospital is now playing the victim here. Anyone who criticizes this is a threat and a danger. No one really believes in global warming. The IRS has its own army. Where are all these racial acts of terror committed by white supremacists? Joe Biden's latest idea is to pay black people to smoke more crack. Watergate, which no one can still explain even to this day, got that, you degraded freaks?
Good Lord. Amazing work there by a friend of the show, Kat Abughazalet over at Media Matters. You should be going to Media Matters for amazing analysis of the insane stuff that the right wing is getting up to every day. But also follow Kat on Twitter because her tweets are amazing, her mashups are amazing. She came with all of the receipts for, I mean, you can't cover all of the lies that Tucker Carlson tells in a year, and we're gonna reference some more. But you should also know that Media Matters has given Tucker Carlson the greatest honor of his career. He is their misinformer of the year. And I think Rayvanna, that he put in the hours and he worked for it. I think that while he has been given a lot in his career that he didn't deserve, i.e. everything, I think this was well deserved.
Oh, absolutely. He ran a really fantastic campaign leading up to winning this award. I can't think of anyone who deserves it more than he does. I do just want to say the one thing that always sticks out to me about like Tucker Carlson and other conservative pundits is when they say things like the breasts of healthy children. That just creeps me out. Like they'll try to call, queer people like me groomers or pedophiles without any evidence. And then they'll like fetishize children's chests. They're just so disgusting. He's just such a disgusting pig.
Yeah, 100%. They love, look, I don't know about any of these individual guys. I don't know if it's just political convenience. I don't know what Matt Walsh thinks about the fact that every single show that he does, he has to attack the trans community for an hour. But they do talk a lot about kids' genitals. Like it's pretty much constant at this point. I'm not saying that means anything. I'm not saying that the FBI should take their hard drive or whatever. I'm just saying it's noteworthy. As Tucker Carlson would say, why isn't anyone talking about this? You're not even allowed to ask questions about what they're Googling. I'm just saying it's probably weird. Best case scenario, it's weird. Anyway, not everything could be fit into that little clip. So I want to remind you that while he lied about all the things they talked about there were a lot of lies. There was constant lies about the war in Ukraine, defense of what Russia was doing, defense of the war crimes, about vaccination, about immigration, about the Great Replacement Theory, about January 6th, about whether white supremacy even exists as a thing. Lies about women in the military, women in general, about men's sperm levels and levels of testosterone, about the government of Hungary and what ideology it actually is following, about green M&Ms, about Paul Pelosi's being attacked, about just pick a thing, and he was lying about it. And he has been rewarded more than almost anyone else in media. Endless new shows and new opportunities and more and more and more money for never doing anything but misinforming and leading to more division and hate in our country. So anyway, thank you Media Matters for that mashup. Very well done. With that said, we have no more time in our first hour, but we do have more show to come. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, everybody, with me, John Iadarola, and Rayvanna. Rayvanna, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. You're actually going to be taking over in just a sec. I just want to read a couple comments before we launch into that. Thank you, Lucky Pletcher Dragon, for sticking with us for 7 months over on Twitch. Says 7 months. Super excited to listen to the news and have some humor with it. I appreciate you, John. Well, thank you. That appreciation is returned twofold. Brew Bras, been here for 5 months, says great points in immigration. I mean, World War II, lots of immigrants. Always lots of it. I mean, there's just constantly been immigration. That's what our country is. Anyway, the Dark Phoenix says, I mean, not all orders are bad. Order 66 was much needed. Hashtag down with the Jedi. Hashtag glory to the Empire. Oh no, starting war with Bart. YTP Renewed says, John likes DBZ and Star Wars. He likes Sonic X. Have I said anything about DBZ? I've mentioned Star Wars. I've watched, I think, 5 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. It was the Frieza saga in high school, and not since then. Apologies. Anyway, with that said, we've got non-Sonic related news, and Rayvanna's gonna give it to us.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into this story that's a little bit puzzling. People's daily routines, for a lot of people, involve doing the crossword, the New York Times crossword. Mine does. Every morning I sit down and I open my New York Times Games app and I do the crossword and the mini and Wordle. I like puzzles. But this Sunday, a lot of crossword fanatics were shocked by the design of the crossword puzzle. So let's pull up what that looked like. So here is the crossword. You can see the clues on the side and to the bottom, and in that upper right-hand corner is the puzzle itself. Now let's take a closer look at that puzzle. There it is. John, does that look like anything to you?
It looks like one of those colorful things you put on a little stick, and then when the wind goes by, it goes woo.
That's a pinwheel.
It's a pinwheel. I'm an innocent, so that's what you mean, right?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to look like a pinwheel, but to a lot of people, it also resembles a swastika. So yeah, the New York Times got quite a bit of flack for this because this was published on Sunday, which also happened to be the first day of the Jewish holiday Hanukkah. They received heavy backlash on social media, with some critics even going so far as to say this was an intentional act of anti-Semitism. So the New York Times responded through its executive director of communications, Jordan Cohen, who said, this is a common crossword design. Many open grids and crosswords have a similar spiral pattern because of the rules around rotational symmetry and black squares. And I'll say the person who made the crossword himself, Ryan McCarty, also published a statement before the backlash. So this was published alongside the crossword itself. And he said, this grid features one of my favorite open middles that I've made, as it pulls from a variety of subject areas. I had originally tried to make it work in a 15 by 15 grid, but then decided to expand the grid out to a Sunday-sized puzzle with a fun whirlpool shape. Hope you enjoy. So this was the first crossword of his that was published in the Sunday Times, but this isn't the first time the New York Times has gotten backlash for this design. So in 2017, after receiving heavy criticism for publishing a crossword that resembled a swastika, the New York Times responded on Twitter, and they said, yes, hi, it's not a swastika. Honest to God, no one sits down to make a crossword puzzle and says, hey, you know what would look cool? Now, I'll say, I don't think this was an intentional act of anti-Semitism. I think it was an unfortunate coincidence that it resembles a swastika. I think that the creator didn't intend for it to look like that. And it being published on the first day of Hanukkah, also an extremely unfortunate coincidence. But I will say the New York Times has, as we've seen, had this issue before. So I think they need to be more careful in what they're publishing, especially now with this recent uptick in anti-Semitism in the United States. John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a bad time in terms of the socio-political context. People are saying it was on the first day of Hanukkah as well, which seems almost impossible that that's when they could make the mistake. But look, yes, I don't think that they did it intentionally. That's crazy. Why would you do that? It could look more like a swastika. If they really wanted just this to look like a swastika, then all the stuff sort of littered around the edge could have been cleaned up. If that's really what they wanted it to look like, I get what they're saying. If you have crossing lines, it might potentially look like that. somewhat regularly. It's actually maybe impressive that it doesn't look like a swastika more often, but it is like the one shape you can't let it be. Well, I can think of one other shape. There's two shapes you can't make it look like. Just avoid that. And maybe that makes it hard to make a crossword. I have to admit, I have literally not even for 5 seconds of my life thought about what goes into the creation of a crossword. Now that I am thinking about it, it seems impossible that you can make it anyway. It seems like that'd be so difficult. But don't make it look like a swastika. I'm not saying that it's intentional, but just for your own benefit, don't make it look like one so that you could avoid this in the future.
Yeah, there's been a lot of criticism from, like Donald Trump Jr. and other right-wing figures who are now using this as evidence that the New York Times is, anti-Semitic Nazi news, which, I mean, you could just literally go back to World War II and see some of the things they were publishing about Hitler and then the lead up to World War II. If you wanted to point to actual anti-Semitism in the New York Times, I think you're more likely to find like anti-Semitism in the New York Times or Nazi adjacent things in the New York Times, when they let Tom Cotton write an op-ed.
Yeah.
But also it's funny to me that these conservatives have taken up the mantle to call out this anti-Semitism when they were just embracing Kanye West and his statements. They weren't very concerned about that anti-Semitism. These conservatives have no shame standing next to Nick Fuentes at one of his conferences. So it just seems like they're trying to, capitalize on this and making the New York Times look bad. But I do think there's like a concern here. They should be more careful. Do you have any last thoughts, John?
Yeah, I feel like it would be pretty easy to avoid that. And just give guidance to the group of people you have making them, like just at all costs, don't make it look like a swastika. That seems like that's within their power in the New York Times. Anyway, by the way, to anyone in the chat, I know we have a big audience. If anyone makes crossword puzzles, you know what I would love? A TYT themed crossword puzzle with questions and trivia for people who've been watching the network for a while. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe that's impossible to make. And if you do make it, please don't make it look like a swastika. But anyway, yes, I hope to see one of those.
That would be really awesome. I love puzzles, so I would definitely like to do that.
I love that you do it every day. I haven't done a crossword in so long. I think that's really impressive.
I was gonna say the audience was just calling you a nerd, so I was gonna ask if you liked puzzles.
I do like them. I just don't remember the last time I thought to do one. I play board games. That's the puzzle that I do, I guess. Anyway.
Okay, board games, crosswords, they're adjacent.
Yes.
All right, switching gears massively, we're gonna tell you about an anti-abortion priest who actually faced some repercussions. So the Vatican has defrocked an anti-abortion priest. For anyone who doesn't know what defrocked means, it means they have taken away his status as a priest. He's no longer considered a priest with the Catholic Church. But that priest was Frank Pavone, and the Vatican defrocked him for what it said were blasphemous communications on social media, as well as persistent disobedience of his bishop, who repeatedly told him to stop his partisan activism for Donald Trump. So here's Frank Pavone, and I can't imagine that this man is engaging in partisan activism. This is his profile picture on multiple, could pull it up for 1 second. This is his profile picture on Twitter and Facebook and some other social media sites Tinder. That he's on. Tinder, yeah. But
he seems cool. I like the thumbs up. That's a very Trumpian thing he's throwing in there too.
I like that he's just standing in front of the road. I don't know where they took this picture. There's just cars going by. Just went outside and took it. But so Pavone's been in conflict with the Bishop of Amarillo, Texas for over a decade over his pro-life and partisan political activities. In 2016, he put an aborted fetus on an altar and posted a video of it on 2 social media sites. And in that post, he said that Hillary Clinton and the Democrat platform would allow abortion to continue, and that Trump and the Republican platform wanted to protect unborn children. That seems so gross to do that. But he didn't. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, just really fast. Where did he get an aborted fetus? Why did this guy have an aborted fetus? Like, is that even legal? That he was able to get his hands on an aborted fetus? Like, this guy needs to be defrocked or whatever. What a goofball thing to still use in the modern era. But I think there's probably worse stuff lurking in the background. But sorry, continue.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I'm operating under the assumption that it was a fake aborted fetus because otherwise that's just too disgusting for me to even conceptualize. But he didn't stop at 2016, his political partisan activities. He continued straight on through 2020. And the Associated Press reported that Pavone remained a firm supporter of Trump. And in 2020, disputed the outcome of the election won by Joe Biden. Ahead of the election, the Armorio Diocese denounced Pavone's use of social media for political ends. They distanced the diocese from him and said his positions weren't consistent with Catholic teaching. So after all this, the diocese eventually relocated him from Armorio to Colorado Springs, where his anti-abortion and pro-Trump antics continued until his defrocking. But he responded to that on Twitter with this amazing tweet. Let's pull it up. So he had to say, "Hi, friends. So in every profession, including the priesthood, if you defend the hashtag unborn, you will be treated like them. The only difference is that when we are aborted, we continue to speak loud and clear." John, can you think of any differences between being defrocked and abortion?
I'm trying, and I don't know that I'm smart enough. I think the speech thing that he brought up was good. That's one difference. Other than that, I think it's exactly like being aborted.
Yeah.
Oh God, what a disgusting way to. I know that you need to make yourself out to be a victim. You're a right winger. That's your bread and butter. But what a disgusting way to invoke that. The idea that I get that he's obsessed with this topic. I know that a lot of right wingers are, but even if you're a pro-lifer, you should consider that to be disgusting. Him invoking that in that way.
Well, I mean, I think, John, you failed to consider that doing your job badly and getting fired is the exact same thing as an abortion. So I hope that he can change your mind on that a little bit and give you some clarity moving forward.
Can I compare this to another tweet that I remember we covered on the show? Does anyone? I'm gonna pause for 1 sec. Does anyone know what I'm gonna read? Because it's actually very similar to this, and I wonder if this is maybe where he got it from. So this was back, I believe it was earlier this year. Yeah, Steve King, he had a tweet that goes like this. "I spent Juneteenth all day in the hot sun hoeing and pulling weeds and thinking about what it would have been like to have been a slave. At the end of the day, I thought about what it would be like to be an aborted baby. I got to see the sunrise and the sunset." That's the whole tweet.
Wow.
These people are off their gourd. They're insane. What are you doing? You're influential. I don't know about the priest, but at least Steve King, like, you've got some money. You had some power at some. Stop trying to steal the experience of enslaved peoples or the aborted. You gross weirdos.
I like comparing doing voluntary yard work for your own property to forced slavery. These people are shameless. We need to bring back shame. There's not enough shame in society anymore. People going out and saying these things. Speaking of saying things, Frank Pavone also went on a live stream where he responded to his defrocking. And there's some amazing things in this video that we'll talk about. But first, here is Frank Pavone in his own words.
They just don't like the work I'm doing for these babies. Too aggressive on abortion. You're supporting pro-life candidates. God forbid. You're supporting the most pro-life president that our nation ever had, the one responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. Really? You want to say something bad about me for supporting President Trump, who got us to this point where we are now? I will never apologize for that. No, you can't do it. You can't cancel this message.
Now, we will talk about what he actually said, but I can't let that go by without commenting on the jacket. What is the leather jacket? What's going on there? Over the priest uniform or whatever. It's shocking.
I can't talk about what he said because I could hear what he said because I've literally never seen a priest wearing that. Is that his? Did he steal it from Jessica Burbank? I don't know. Where did he? Like, I own, 5 leather jackets at this point. I don't want to wear them anymore. I think after seeing that guy, like, as I think you were talking about this before the show, it's not like this is a casual stream where this is what he's wearing. No, he still put on the priest stuff and then it was like, this is missing something. I've got it. What did he consider other than that? Were there any hat choices that he was considering? Did he take Hell's Angels too seriously or something? I don't know what's up with this phrase.
Honestly, it's just so like distracting from what he's saying. And this isn't the only time he's worn this outfit. He wears it in every single live stream he does. No, yes. It's like his outfit for his stream with the priest uniform underneath, with the with the leather jacket on top. Well, he talks about how much of a victim he is. One of the other things he mentioned that we didn't play in the video, but he claimed in this live stream that he was completely unaware of the defrocking going on at the Vatican until he read it in a Catholic news outlet, which the Vatican didn't like because they put out a statement disputing him. In his letter, Archbishop Pierre cited information from the Congregation for Clergy that Pavone had been laicized. He can no longer present himself as a priest after being found guilty in a canonical proceeding of blasphemous communications on social media and a persistent disobedience of the lawful instructions of his diocesan bishop. The Archbishop also said that Pavone had ample opportunity to defend himself as well as to submit to his bishop. One thing I liked about his video is that he calls it a cancellation. He's been canceled by the Vatican, by the Pope, maybe even by God for just, defending the unborn by putting an aborted fetus on an altar, by campaigning for Trump really heavily on social media. I don't know. I'm shocked that the Catholic Church actually did something about this. I'm pleasantly shocked that they did something about this. But this whole thing is just, it's too much. What do you have anything else, John?
Yeah, I don't think they want the stunt with the aborted fetus, whether real or fake. And it's also possible that he just literally wasn't following their guidance and a lot of other stuff we're not finding out about. It's also possible that like they enjoy their tax exempt status and they would really prefer not to have people who too explicitly make the case for that to be reconsidered. Like if he's out there wearing the MAGA hat and stuff like that. Anyway, like that.
Yeah.
But I love that they tried to communicate with him very seriously, laying out all the steps and why he should, like, the dude's not gonna listen to that. Save yourself the words and just send him a text message that says get frocked. Like you could save yourself the time.
I'll say like a lot of priests are pro-life, and I grew up Catholic. My church, the priest would always lead us in prayer to protect the unborn, and they would phrase it in a way that was like, pray for our political leaders to make decisions to protect the unborn. And you're right about the tax exempt status, because they do it like that, they phrase it like that, so they're not saying, we pray that Trump gets elected or whatever, because that's, you're engaging in partisan political activity, which does endanger their tax exempt status. They're doing it in more of a vague way. They're all doing it. They're just not doing it as blatantly and as obviously as this guy was.
Yeah. Wow. God, that guy's a character. I love the jacket for no, like it could literally have been any. He had been wearing like the Thriller jacket. Like he's just picking it's so weird. They just want to be cool. You've got a uniform, rock it. There's still a little bit of respect, I think, put on the uniform. Anyway, okay, great stories, Rayvanna. Thank you for giving us those. We're gonna move on to one other topic in just a second. I want to read just a couple comments before we do that. Okay, square peg in a round hole. Oh no, I did read that one. Eileen says, so the ones that are fearing catching COVID from migrants are missed, likely to be the ones that are unvaccinated. Do they see how insane that is? Well, look, early on, there was a little bit of the right claiming that was one of the reasons we needed to crack down was they're diseased and they're bringing it. Like they loved the idea of presenting migrant communities as diseased, but I honestly don't even see them doing that anymore. Like they are so far past even pretending to care about COVID. If you want to make Title 42 law, pass it as a law. Stop just dragging out a pandemic era policy that clearly has nothing to do with the pandemic anymore. Campaign on actually passing that legislation. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, Naughtiest Maximus says, radical right-wing dudes who want to tell women what to do and use religion as the means to do that. Has this ever happened before? I think it's happened every time. Yes, I think you're onto something. Okay, with that said, let's jump into one more story. In October, an investigative reporter named Olivia Reisner visited 5 anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers in Indiana to find out what they're actually saying to women who end up there. And she uncovered some amazing stuff. You should understand that she brought a pregnant friend's urine so that she would have some evidence that she was pregnant. She had a button on her shirt that secretly doubled as a camera, and she scheduled appointments with them. Now, she very clearly, and I think cleverly, never signed any documentation that was saying that she wasn't recording or anything like that. She didn't break the law or anything. That said, she did get some footage from this experience, so take a look.
We have been leaning towards abortion.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the ladies that have abortions, they get scar tissue in their fallopian tissues, and then they can no longer ovulate. I mean, they ovulate, but they can no longer get pregnant in a natural way. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that's a problem. Infertility is a huge problem after abortions. There's also some bleeding problems. There's problems with the abortion pill, with the amount of progesterone or estrogen or whatever it is that they give you.
Got it.
And there is a pill that if you decide to take it and change your mind, if you get to it soon enough, there is a pill to reverse that.
What kinds of like emotional problem?
Like depression, inability to sleep, anorexia, sometimes bulimia. It's just all of these bad feelings they have about themselves come out. And so sometimes it comes one way, sometimes it comes another, suicidal. There's been an awful lot of suicides.
Okay, so just in case you're listening but not watching this, I want to be very clear because we wanted to play that for you so that you know the experience that people have when they go to these crisis pregnancy centers. The claims that are being made are not true, literally not at all. There is no evidence to support that, and a lot of evidence pointing in the exact opposite direction. The idea that having an abortion is going to stop your ability to get pregnant in the future, that is just not a thing that has been established by science. It doesn't appear to have any effect on fertility. There are some studies that indicate it might potentially raise the odds of giving birth a little bit early. There is nothing about infertility. The vast majority of people who undergo abortions do not express massive regret or depression or suicidal ideation or anything like that. So all of that is being presented as an opportunistic set of lies to achieve a particular outcome that they want. And the idea that these crisis pregnancy centers are presenting themselves as just a place you can go, a resource. They're not ideological or anything. And yet that is the only reason they exist, is to stop people from having abortions, is truly disgusting. And so great work by Olivia Reisner there on making clear, like having it written down is one thing, but actually hearing it be said to someone who's in a difficult point, I think is even better. Rayvanna, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the crisis pregnancy centers will never tell anybody is that giving birth puts you at significantly more risks to your health than getting an abortion does, because they have an interest in lying to you. They also often put they put crisis pregnancy centers right next to abortion clinics to confuse people, so that then instead of going into the abortion clinic where they have an appointment, they accidentally go into the crisis pregnancy center, and they let them sign in and let them say they had an appointment and act like they're in the right place. And then give them all this misleading information. And like these people oftentimes can be, in a vulnerable position. So when someone is telling you all of these horrible, scary things about what might happen to you if you decide to have an abortion, it can really influence people. And then they might carry to term a pregnancy that they otherwise would not have. And then of course that can have health repercussions, financial repercussions. And it really diminishes the right to choose in this country, because if you're getting all this bad information, this misinformation, you're not making an informed decision.
Yeah. Look, I don't know the numbers of how many less abortions there are as a result of it. I don't know if you have that influence. I think that if a person is going to a place to having an abortion and then has to go through this experience, what probably happens is they have the abortion, but they're made to feel terrible. Like they talk about concern over depression or other things, but also let's be clear, both in the video that you saw and generally what the pro-life movement is trying to do is trying to make people feel terrible about that. They are actively trying to make that the outcome and then pretending about just wanting to protect the emotional well-being of women. This stuff, I guess, can legally exist, even though the entire business model is based on fraud and emotional manipulation. It should definitely be looked into in the future. I believe that John Oliver back in the day had a great episode on crisis pregnancy centers as well. But it's just disgusting what they do to people, trying to manipulate them in a very difficult period. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for the show today. I want to thank special guest Rayvanna for joining us and presenting stories. Rayvanna, thank you.
Thanks for having me. And everyone can see me on Unbossed later today.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to be on Unbossed later today. That's awesome. And definitely check out Rayy-Actions as well. Rayvanna, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everyone out there, Indisputable is going to be coming up next, but also bear in mind, I will be joining Francesca Fiorentini on the Bitchuation Room. I hope to see all of you there in the chat, making comments, asking questions and all that. I'm sure Francesca would be excited to see you there too. So hopefully see you then. But for now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.